Entity Framework Core just fixed one of its biggest limitations in .NET 10. And it's to do with joining tables. Here we have a products table which has an optional category ID column. This links to the categories table, and if we wanted to get all the products, even the ones without categories, we'd have to do a left join. So in an example SQL query, we select all the records from dbo.products, giving it an alias of p, and then we do a left outer join on the categories table, joining the category ID from products to the ID in categories. And that returns all the products, including the ones without categories. We've set up those tables as entities in our application. We have the product entity, it has the ID and the name and a relationship between the category. We set up a category navigation property. We then have the category which has the ID and the name. In the DB context, we set up a DB set so we can query against the products. For simple queries, we can use the include method. So we can return the DB context.productsDB set and include the category navigational property, and then where we say where the product ID equals the ID that we're passing in as part of the parameter. Now we're returning a product with category DTO. This is a record and it just stores information about the product and also the category. So we create a new instance of that and we get the product ID, the product name. We then have to see if category is null. If it's not null, we can get the ID, otherwise we return null. And we'll do the same for the name as well. And then we just return first or default async and await the call. However, if you're not using navigational properties or you have more complex joins, then before .NET 10 you'd have to use group join. And this was a little bit complicated. So you specify the group join, then we'd have to add the categories navigational property because we need to query it from the DB context. So we'll set that up. It's a DB set of category which we've named categories. And then in the group join, the first parameter is called in DB context.categories. Then we'd have to do the join for the next two parameters. So on the product, it's the category ID against the ID in the categories table. And then we'd have to return that. So we'd have the product and the category. And we'll create a new anonymous function where we get the product and the category. Then we do the where clause. Once again, we're passing in the ID as a parameter. We get the product.id, so it gets the product from there, and it equals the ID from the parameter. And then we'd have to call select many. We'd then call join.category, and we'd have to specify default if empty. So this is the part that does the left join. If it's empty, it will still return the product. Then we'll have to write another lambda expression. At this point, we want to return a type of product with category DTO, so this is where we do that. So we create a new product with category DTO, and then we specify the properties we want to return. So we want to first of all return the product ID, and then the product name, the category ID if it's not null, and then finally the category name. And then return the first or default record. So that is quite complex for doing a left join. Shortly, we'll show you how easier it is to write that query in .NET 10. Before that, if you want to see Entity Framework Core used in real-world projects, I cover it throughout my Minimal APIs for Complete Beginners course. You'll learn how to query, insert, update and delete data using EF Core in fully working Minimal API applications. Minimal APIs are Microsoft's recommended way of building web APIs in C#, and combining them properly with Entity Framework Core is key to writing clean, maintainable code. You can view the course at roundthecode.com/min1 and check the YouTube description for any current offers. .NET 10 has introduced the LeftJoin and RightJoin method, making that last query much simpler to write. So we get the products where the ID equals the ID from the parameter. Then we can call the new LeftJoin method, and it's very similar to the group join. We first of all need to get the categories DB set from the DB context, and then we do the join So we get the product.category ID, and that joins against the category ID. We then group those two together in a lambda expression. So we pass in the product and the category as the parameters. And once again, we're creating a new product with category DTO instance. This is where we do that. And we just store the properties in there. So we get the product ID, the product name, and then we do a null check on the category. If it's not null, we return the ID, otherwise we return null. And we do exactly the same for the category name. And then once all that's done, we just return the first or default record. Much more simpler. There is also a RightJoin method as well. This is essentially the opposite to LeftJoin. We're querying the categories table and we're doing a RightJoin on the products where the category ID equals the product.category ID. It still returns all the products, including the ones where there's no category. Here's an example of the RightJoin. So we're querying the categories DB set where the category ID equals the ID from the parameter, and we do a RightJoin on the products DB set where the category ID equals the product ID, and we've created this new category with product DTO, which adds the ID and the name of the category and then the product ID and the name. And then after that, we're returning it as a list because in theory, a category can have more than one product. That works with the lambda syntax, so does it work with the query syntax? No, I'm afraid it doesn't. You still have to do it the old way. With the query syntax, you get the products from db context.products, and then you join the category on the db context.categories, and we do it against the category ID in the product table, against the ID in the categories table, and we put it into another instance. And then we have to call, because we put it into this PC instance, we have to call default if empty. This makes it the LeftJoin. And then we specify where the ID equals the ID from the parameter. And then from there, we can create the new instance of the product with category DTO. We pass in the product ID, the product name. We do the null check on the category. If it's not null, we pass in the ID. Otherwise, we return null. And we do the same thing for the name. And then return the first or default record. Hopefully they'll add it to the query syntax soon. And if you want to learn more about Entity Framework Core, watch this video next. If you want to use Entity Framework Core in a real-world application, then my Minimal APIs course is just for you. Go to roundthecode.com/min1. There's also a link for it in the YouTube description. Thanks very much for watching, and I'll see you on the next video.